Well, meantime, halfway around the world, Yemen's 2-year-old civil war could be about to take another dramatic turn after the death of the country's former president, Abdullah Saleh. He was killed today by members of the Houthi rebel movement. They cheered news of his death, even though they'd been his supporters, until a dramatic falling out less than 48 hours ago. It seems certain Saleh's death will only exacerbate an already devastating war. We'll get to that threat in just a moment. But first, a bit more on who he was. His influence goes back decades. He rose to power in North Yemen in the 1960s, becoming its president in 1978. Just over a decade later, North and South Yemen became one, and Saleh seized overall control. As president, he allied himself with Saudi Arabia and the U.S., allowing U.S. airstrikes on al-Qaeda in Yemen in 2004. But in 2011, a national uprising inspired by the Arab Spring. It forced Saleh from office. To regain influence, he flipped sides, working with Saudi Arabia's enemies, the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. It worked. With Yemen's current president in self-imposed exile, Saleh wielded enormous influence on the ground until Saturday and a fatal misstep. Saleh appeared to switch sides again by offering to negotiate with the Saudis. Houthi rebels saw it as a betrayal, and he was killed as he fled the capital. Margaret Evans looks at what it means for the country's politics and for its vast humanitarian crisis.
An undignified end for Abdullah Saleh, the former president who'd ruled Yemen with an iron fist for 33 years before joining forces with the rebels seeking to oust his replacement. A marriage of convenience that lasted barely 3 years. Saleh switched sides in Yemen's civil war over the weekend, turning on his Iranian-backed Houthi allies, who reportedly attacked his house in Sana'a, pursuing him as he fled. Saleh appeared to be reaching out to this man, Yemen's internationally recognized president, who fled the Houthis for Riyadh in 2015, backed by a Saudi-led coalition which has sent bombs raining down on rebel-held targets in Yemen with devastating effect on civilians.
The importance of what happened today is that any hope for a political peace process, a political resolution, is now gone. And now the Houthis have absolute control over the capital, and they have absolute control over the north.
Fighting in the country, in part a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, has already displaced an estimated 3 million people. We reached Johan Moy of CARE International by telephone in Sana'a.
I've worked in Iraq and I've worked in Africa before. I've never seen a disaster coming our way that quickly and in that enormity.
Last month, the Saudi-led coalition tightened its blockade on rebel-held areas, increasing civilian suffering. Cholera has swept the country, and 7 million people face the risk of starvation if assistance fails. Yemen is hollowed out and as fragile as the look worn on the faces of its people. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.